Hey, happy Monday. Thank you for joining me. My name is Ernesto Vega, broker with Campus Real Estate. And like always, every Monday, I bring you motivation information Mondays. So I bring you information on the market on what's going on. And then I also bring you stuff that you can use to make you more productive. I'm coming to you live from for Western office of Campus Real Estate. I have a very nice looking crowd right here with me today. That's my doppelganger, Ernesto number two, right there. So he's not even looking at me. He's on camera. He's walking away. He keeps walking. He's not listening. You see what happens when you go live? Stuff happens. All right. So we are gonna talk real estate today. That's I bring you stuff that happens every week in the market. And last week was a lot of stuff. I gotta tell you, I was blown away by everything that happened last week. So let's break into it. So last week, for all the non-believers, I know there's a lot of non-believers, was the first time in 2025 when inventory week over week went down. The amount of homes for sale, everybody listen, the amount of home for sales went down. So the inventory didn't keep growing, the inventory went down. So that is good for sellers, not so good for buyers. And the reason it went down is because, like I said, every minute A homes in the US sell. Every minute A homes sell in the US. But a lot of sellers that are very comfortable in their homes are like, I'm gonna wait. I got a 2.5% mortgage rate. I'm gonna wait till next year. I'm gonna take my house off the market, and I'll come back next year. So a lot of buyers are gonna have a big surprise because everybody kept going. Inventory is gonna go up and up and up, and all of a sudden, last week was that wow for a lot of people. But in South Florida, because that's a national statistic I'm giving you, in South Florida, if you saw what I put over the weekend, we actually hit 2019 numbers of inventory. So 2019 numbers of inventory. You remember 2019? I had hair. I haven't had jet black hair. You remember, guys? Remember that? 2019? No? So 2019, we hit 2019 numbers of inventory. So South Florida has found its balance. The market has found its balance. Another interesting thing that came out last week out of that historical change in inventory is that now they're not forecasting another 20% to the end of the year because so many sellers are canceling and not coming into the market. So that forecast that everybody that said there'll be another 20% increase from today. Now every guru is like, wait. I'm not gonna talk yet. I need a couple of more weeks of Miami numbers to see what's what. But it looks that way. Sales, however, look like gonna be a little bit slower this month. And every time that happens, I tell everybody, look, if there's a holiday, people are partying. It's I don't know why, but Americans, we love to party. And the 4th of July landed on a Friday, which means nobody was working since Wednesday, and everybody took Monday off, except me apparently. But everybody, you didn't do that too either. Good. So what happened was we had a week that we lost in July. So we have a week that is gone. So are the sales going to be slower when the July numbers come out? Yes. Are people going to tell you the market is crashing? Yes. But you got to take it that we had a whole week. So July is going to have 3 weeks of working, only 3 of non-working. Price reductions last week versus the previous week. And everybody that has a listing, who has a listing? All right. Now hear me out. Everybody in Zoom that has a listing, hear me out because you want to hear this. Previous week, 38% of active listings had a price cut. Last week, 41% of remaining active listings had a price cut. So that's a lot of listings getting their price cut. I made a funny over the weekend. I don't know if you guys saw it. So if your listing still has Christmas lights, you need to lower the price. And the agent that had the listing added the pictures, but he didn't change the price. So if your listing's been around since December, you gotta You gotta have a come to Jesus moment because that is not gonna work. So it looks like sellers are getting more, realistic with pricing. We're not having prices correcting, we're having listing pricing correction. So it's two whole different things. Um, Housing Wire, which is one of the national forecasts for pricing, it says that pricing in the US social hour is after 12:30 in la cocina. So pricing for the US, Housing Wire is saying the pricing will go down 1% nationally. But that's a very hard thing to pinpoint because we're such a big diverse nation with such a big diverse markets that I don't see that happening. I don't know where they're getting the numbers from, but this is the first time they say that housing prices will go down 1% this year. Maybe at a national level, I keep going to real estate as local, and everybody, including the tax auditor for Dade County, says that we will go up 8% this year. So, but hey, it's good to hear that. The good thing that happened last week is that we had another 25%, and I don't know if you guys saw the graph that I shared, 25% growth on buyers getting approved. And if you saw that graph that I put that, it show you how many contracts were written last week and how many people got pre-approved for a mortgage. There's a big difference in that number. So there's a lot of buyers that you guys are working with that are getting pre-approved or pre-approved, but they're not writing offers yet. So if you have a buyer in your pipeline, you gotta reach out because that's a lot of buyers getting pre-approved. I'll reshare that graph so you'll see it. From contracts written last week to people getting pre-approved, it's huge. It's a tremendous amount of difference. I don't know why. But this is the 22nd consecutive week where more buyers are getting pre-approved than last year. So we got, for the past 22 weeks, which is almost half a year, we have had an increase of buyers getting more buyers getting more approved for a mortgage, approved for a mortgage. So, oh, look, there's Ruben. I thought you were just pre-approving those buyers that I'm talking about.
I took a break.
You took a break? All right. So, so 22 weeks of growth consecutive of buyers getting pre-approved and 25% week over week. So that's a lot. And then going back to at a national level, it looks like we had about 7,000 more contracts written last week. And like I said, to me, that's a slow week because that's a week of holidays. Joaquin was down jet skiing in the Keys, I heard, right? A Corona in each hand, so I don't know how he was driving the jet ski. Exactly. So we still have 7% growth on contracts being written, and that to me is on a slow week. Rates are in the high sixes, approaching 7. That's where they're sitting at. We are about 0.25% less than we were at last year. So I see that as a continuous growth. Contracts, like I said, 0.08 growth on contracts. I think we are on track for that 4.350, which is my number, and I'm sticking to it, of new sales last year, which is a very low number to say the least. But still, 4,350,000 is what I'm putting my reputation on. There will be how many sales this year. Why pending sales are up 1.1% month over month, and we continue to go up. The thing is that if you look at April 23, we're down 6% from April 23. But come on, let's be realistic. April 23 was a whole different game. It's like the Great Gatsby. We were all dancing and drinking and partying. It was a whole different America, right? So we are still in the slowest market since 2009, and I don't think anybody but Joaquin and Ivan remember, and Carlos remember 2009. The lowest existing home sales transaction number, and we're still here. So you're going. Ruben was also there. Ruben was like 17, I think, in 2009, right? He was doing appraisal, mortgages, you name it. He was doing it all. So we are moving little by little. The thing is, when you look at graphs, and there was a good one that was shared this today in the morning. Whenever we went down, and then like we've been already at that time that is down as it's going to get before it takes off. And that's why I always talk about the smart money. I'm going to talk about the smart money in the end. Everybody is betting on a September boom. So we're now in July, so we're going to have to go through August and then a September boom. But like I said, sales are moving up almost 1% month over month. Inventory, like I said, first national week where inventory was contracted, less houses put for sale. Dade County, our market, Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. No, we actually hit the balance. And rates, like it is what it is. If we're in the 6 and 7, it's if you go back to January, I said in January, the mortgage is going to be a seesaw, un columpio. 1 week here, 1 week there, and that's what it looks like it's going to keep going. Now, that was my market update. I want to recap what I mentioned last Monday because a lot of you still have questions about the bill that was passed by our government regarding how it helps real estate. Not a political stance. I'm not endorsing any political party. Don't send me a message about that. I am not. I'm only talking real estate. So for real estate, this was a great deal. The mortgage and insurance deduction, the SALT, it's a huge benefit for any home buyer because you can write off your taxes and your insurance. So whenever you're having that consultation with your buyer and your buyer says, but I'm moving from the Carolinas and taxes in the Carolinas are pennies. And I say, yeah, but you live in the Carolinas. You're going to move to Miami. So you're going to move to a real city. And by moving here, thanks to the new bill, you'll be able to write off your taxes and your insurance. And on top of that, you can still write off your mortgage interest. So if you have an individual, which is no longer considered a high net worth individual, anybody that's making over $200,000, they can get a write-off and probably get money back. And I'm not an accountant because the write-off is so big considered to what they'll be paying in taxes and insurance. So if you have buyers on the sideline, remember $40,000 for taxes and insurance write-off and the mortgage insurance deduction still there. With the maximum I think allowed was about $2,400. That's $2,400 on top of the $40,000 that you can still write off of your interest. Yes. Yeah, non-investment properties. But with investment properties, the other thing that passes, you can do 100% depreciation year one. I mean, you'll get recapture whenever you sell, but if you had a great year in another business and you need a mass write-off, you can just buy a property and write off the entire purchase price. Did you guys hear me? The entire purchase price is a write-off. You got to pay it back whenever you sell the property. So don't sell the property. Give it to your kids and let your kids deal with it later. When you're dead, it's like, oh, dad left me the house. Oh my God, he left me the house and a tax bill. But hey, you got to do what you got to do. So that's huge. Also, the state tax was raised from 5 million to 50 million. If you look at South Florida market, that is a lot of properties that qualify for that. It could be transferred for them debt free. So those three things, and of course, extending the 1031 exchange, those four things are really gonna boost the real estate market because if we're like Ivan just said, if we're still doing okay being where we're at, and all of a sudden we're pouring all of this into it, the minute the rate drop, the minute that Ruben wakes up in the morning and pulls that lever and lowers the rate, it's gonna be a hell of a the end of the year. If you have any questions about the things that I just talked about, send me a message and I'll send them to you. But like I said, mortgage deduction, interest reduction, it's about $2,400. The SALT deduction is about $40,000 deduction. The write-off on commercial properties that are purchased goes to 100% year one, and 1031 exchanges are still there. There was also the came out on opportunity zones, but I'm not going to get into opportunity zones. If you are into opportunity zones, it was expanded. So if you got any investors working with opportunity zones, that is huge. So what all of this means is what I keep saying, I think where all of the roads are pointing to a very interesting last quarter of 2025. Like we always have a good quarter, second quarter of the year. I think this year it's going to be the other way around because remember, we're going to have the hometown heroes. It looks like we're going to have cheaper rates and all of these incentives are going to be available. So then the last quarter of 25, which it never happens, the last quarter is when people go on vacation. I don't think any realtors are going to go on vacation in this time soon. The other thing that came out this weekend was builder inventory. So builder inventory in Florida is beginning to contract. Imagine that. And there was the first article that mentioned that the builder inventory peaked because the West Coast was contracted for 4 to 6 months due to storms. So literally everybody's finished the houses at the same time. Lennar was the one saying, listen, we have put the brakes on building right now, but everything that we have built have sold. They have a big project called Babcock Ranch. It's north of Cape Coral. And they literally have put the brakes on building, and all of a sudden everything is being absorbed. Yes, they're doing great incentives, but a sign that they are selling more than they thought they were going to sell is 2 weeks ago, Lennar was still paying 4% compensation to agents. Last week, they went down to 3%, right? So if they went back to 3%, it's because, yeah, they're selling, right? It's very simple because it was a 5.5, it was a 6, and it went back to 5, then it went back to 4. And the last week I got the email saying, hey, we're back to 3%. So that goes to show you that, even Lennar, who everybody's, write them off, it's still moving. And Ruben, I am glad that you're here today because this was something that I didn't understand, that I did a bunch of reading into it, and it's the vantage scoring. And no, vantage scoring is not a new soccer strategy that Messi uses to win every game. Do you guys watch Messi play against Nashville? Me and Cruz are the only one that watch the game. That guy's he's a beast, isn't he? Messi is the beast. I don't, Oh, Ruben watched it too. Guys, you got to watch him. The guy's it's art to watch him play. So Ruben, vantage scoring. From what I read and I looked up, it looks like Fannie and Freddie are gonna not only look at your credit score, what you pay, but they're looking at vantage scoring, which is a compilation of what you pay in rent and other debts as a qualifying tool. So that means more people will be able to qualify for mortgages?
Yeah, especially first-time home buyers, right? Because people with little or no credit now can have a credit score when they use the Vantage score. If it includes rental payments, things like cell phone bills, things like that can be used to create a Vantage score. It's a little more similar to the consumer credit that you see on what do you call it? The credit cards and cars and that kind of stuff. So in
So
Credit Karma,
they'll be looking at your utility bill, your phone bill, your cell phone bill, and your rent to get you to qualify, not just your FICO score.
correct. It's the Vantage score is actually a software, so it already takes that into consideration. So you already have a Vantage score.
Okay, so from what Wall Street Journal said on Saturday, there are 5 million Americans, without even digging deep, that based on this could become home buyers, entry-level home buyers.
It's huge, right? Like I said, especially for first-time home buyers, people with very little or new credit, it's a big deal. And also, it's kind of a little similar to what the Credit Karma does. So it's a little more consumer-driven, which typically gets you a little higher credit score. So, they're making changes to keep the people buying homes. I think that's a big thing now. If we just can get the rates to come down, we're going to be, like you said, going to have a great end of the year.
So, Ruben, last question before I go back to my rant. Are they going to look at the Vantage score, and they're going to look at your credit score, all the bureaus together, or how are they gonna do the secret sauce over at Fannie and Freddie?
I think for now we're still going to be using mostly the FICO score because I don't believe the Vantage score has been incorporated into the DU process yet, or the LP.
Okay.
Until that happens, then but they'll use it as an additional factor, a compensating
Additional
factor.
factor.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's just 5 million people just on the first look around that will be able to become buyers. So thank you for expanding on that. And if anybody has any question about that, you can reach out to Ruben or anybody over at the CMG team. So as a realtor, how does everything that I just ranted on help you? So inventory contracting, it's gonna reassure buyers that it's not gonna be more homes for sale every week. It's gonna tell buyers that if you're gonna keep waiting on the sidelines, the house that you want is gonna disappear. The highlight of the tax reform, I think those are self-explanatory. It's going to tell that buyer, it's not just a high-end buyer, any buyer, that these benefits will offset whatever extra cost you have in taxes and insurance. Because everybody says, I buy a house, my house gets reassessed, my taxes go up, I can no longer afford the house. That's not true. With this new South benefit, you'll be able to take advantage of that. The 1031 exchange, the 1031 exchange is huge because everybody thought that was going to go away. And 1031 exchange is a form for investors to sell a property, not pay any capital gains at that sale, but reinvest them into something else, and then pay them at the end. You pay your ticket at the end when you're out. With the educate your clients that there's going to be a distortion in data in July, because I know a lot of everybody sends a thing that they get sent to them. July is going to be a weird month because to me July is going to be like a week we were out, so keep that in mind. The market in the South, us, is the slowest market in the US right now because we build more homes than anybody. So the South Texas and Florida built more homes than the entire country last year. So the reason we have more homes to sell is because the two of us build more homes than anybody. So if anybody says, oh yeah, but the South is slow, tell them, listen, the South is slow because we brought more inventory, and the inventory, it's actually selling. We are heading to a balanced market, and that is what you're seeing with inventory going to where it's at. We're finding a more balanced market. Yeah, concessions and seller credits are still huge. And then I have a question for you guys at the end when I finish with the Zoom on that. But concessions are still huge. But in wrapping it up, before I go into your motivation part, I always like to bring you record-breaking sales, and I have one that I'm going to announce next week that literally I fell off the chair, but I'm going to say that one for next week. So last week, I remember what I don't know who was the guy who said it. It wasn't Ruben, but I'm going to give him the credit. Follow the smart money. If the smart money is buying real estate, it tells you that the real estate recession is over. Si la gente con dinero están comprando casas caras, quiere decir que la recesión se acabó. Porque la gente con mucho dinero saben cómo está la economía más que todo el mundo, right? So last week in Coconut Grove, I don't know if you guys know anybody know Coconut Grove? Great restaurants, great vibe. You can see Joaquin as Senor Frogs every Friday, right? Wait. You guys assume you missed a singer. He just did literally. Joaquin didn't miss a beat. So Coconut Grove, 3488 St. Gardens Drive in Coconut Grove, a new spec home just sold for a record $65 million. $65 million. Palm Beach, 14,000 square feet, 3 homes north of Mar-a-Lago, 3 homes north of Mar-a-Lago just sold for $73 million, right? And you guys remember that sale in Naples about a month ago, 250 million, that everybody was like, oh my God, 250 million. So the house across the street, who doesn't even have water, just sold for $85 million. And it's not even on the beach. I mean, you can walk to the beach, but you're not even on the beach. So that was just last week in our market, areas where we work. So Naples, sold for $85 million, non-beachfront property. ¿Ah? La vas a buscar, okay. So it's a mega mansion, it's 17,000 square feet on there. It's a massive, massive brand new house. But it tells you, ladies and gentlemen, that the upper class, or the people with money, keep buying real estate and keep buying real estate in Florida. And there was one more sale that took place, but I'm waiting to confirm it or announce it next week, that literally puts all their sales into, like, and that just closed last Thursday. And I was like, wow. But okay, hey, that is Florida real estate for you guys. Okay, so wrapping it up quickly, I gave you all information on things that you can do to be more productive this week. So everybody keeps asking me, Ernesto, I'm having trouble closing my online leads. And me and Joaquin always laugh, because I said, if it's an online lead, it's not a lead. Don't call it a lead, because then mentally it hurts you, because you think this is a prospect and then it goes to you, and then you feel brokenhearted, and then you go home and you don't do real estate that day, right? So don't. So anybody, yeah, you get depressed. So anybody that reaches you online is a suspect. Literally, save them in your phone as a suspect. That's what it is. The minute they reply to one of your messages, the minute you talk to them for the first time, then they become a prospect. Now, whenever you get to sit down with them and have a buyer's consultation, then they become a lead. But when they reach out to you the first time, they'll say, "Oh, someone was telling me I have 200 leads." And I said, "Awesome. How many have you had buyer consultations with?" None. And I said, "So then you don't have 200 leads. You have 200 suspects." So just remember that. Okay. So things you can do to get these people to connect with you. You have to reach out enough times at the beginning for them to reply. Don't take it personal, but apparently millennials like to be chased. So if your client is a millennial, it's going to take more than 3 texts or phone calls or emails for them to get back to you. Most suspects out there now are looking for a low down payment option. So when you have a minute, go talk to Jader. Jader has mortgages with 1% down. So make sure you know everything about that, because that's what everybody is looking for now, low down payment option. Gen Xers, which is us, I don't know how many Gen Xers are here, are now looking for bigger homes, because Gen Xers, we are called the sandwich generation. Anybody knows what we call the sandwich generation? Because we have older parents and kids in college, so we are a sandwich. We're like stuck in the middle. We gotta take care of both, right? Who's a boomer? You just missed another Joaquin singer. That's why you gotta come to the office. So Gen Xers are looking for bigger homes, but not because they want to flaunt their wealth. They're looking for bigger homes because they got grandma, grandpa, or college kids moving back in. So, right? And grandkids. Boomers, it says the boomers, the best way to find them is on Facebook with Facebook ads. What a house. Let's leave it on Facebook. All right. So quick responses is what turns suspects to prospects. For you guys that have been to my classes, remember, I always say when a lead comes in, is call, text, email, call, text. All of that day one. That many touches. Call, text, email, call, text. That many times. And how quickly, Ernesto? Apparently, the first text, as per realtor.com, needs to go out in 13 seconds. Anybody texting their suspects in 13 seconds? And there you go. That's your, huh? If you get a text and you reply in 13 seconds? Faster? Okay. So remember that. When they call you, you know who it is that's calling you, because if they're calling you as a boomer, right, or an older Gen X, millennials and Gen Zs don't call you. They just want to text. So you'll know what their age is just by that. Follow-up is key, and not just, hey, how are you, but little tips of, hey, homes are selling quickly, rates move down, you don't want to miss this home that you inquire about. Text little quirky snippets that will be more interesting than, hey, how are you, hey, I'm following up, how's it going today. Pinch them, literally pinch them over text, so they will come back to you. Keep voicemails really short, and keep text messages. And I'm going to say this to all of you because I get text messages from all of you. Keep text messages short. A text message should not require scrolling. Right, Joaquin? No. So text message should be kept short, very, very short. You gotta level up your online presence. I know that everybody listening to me has a beautiful online presence, and all of you have your automated listings flowing from Canvas. Okay. Their bio. So should I make mine Wu-Tang is forever or no? Make mine Wu-Tang is forever? Yeah. So level up your online presence. Two sites that you gotta be in is you need to have a Google business page. I know I say that every once in a while, and everybody looks at me with a sad face. You need to have a Google business page, and you need to do a Yelp. If you want to work with millennials, who wants to work actually with Gen Zs, who wants to work with Gen Zs, you need to have a Yelp page because they go straight to Yelp. They want to see what Adriana's been up to, and they want to see what people say about Adriana, and they like Yelp. Look at Saji. Saji doesn't do anything without using Yelp. He just goes to the barber without checking Yelp. He doesn't, all of that good stuff. And the last thing I want to say about the leads, which is why I'm out of time, is make sure that your information, like Joaquin just said, is optimized on your social media. Make sure that it says, did you read my presentation? Are you sure? I think you read my presentation. So it says that your social media profile needs to say what. If you want to have a separate social media profile, perfect. But you need to have a real estate one that says what you do, how you do it. You should have a bio. You should have reviews from people because it's one of the five things that really makes buyers pull the trigger and move with you. That is it for my peeps on social media. I'm going to stay here with everybody that came to the office of Weston. If you guys want to see me next Monday, be here in person. Tomorrow we'll be doing Ask the Attorney, and I believe it's in Spanish. If you want any of the information that we shared today, please let me know. If you want to find out anything about Vantage scoring for your buyer, because I might get your buyer over the hump to qualify, talk to Ruben or anybody in his team. And if you want to find out about the 1% down payment conventional loan, same thing. Go talk to Ruben or anybody on his team. Have a great rest of your Monday, everybody. I'm available if you need anything.